I like to welcome Saugat Gautam Dai. So Saugat Gautam Dai is Principal Engineering Manager at Leapfrog. So he has 8 years plus experience. He has more than 8 years experience in the technology field, and also he has been my go-to person whenever I need any career-related advice in technology or all these stuffs. And one fun fact is that I joined Leapfrog as a full-stack engineer, and I later switched into the DevOps field because Saugat I saw that I had interest in DevOps, and currently I'm working on the DevOps, but I joined as a full-stack. So that's that. And talking more about this event, so this event aims to provide what are different insights on the career related to technology. This field is dynamic. There are many things you can do, like there is UI UX, and there's motion graphics, there's game development, and going to the coding parts, there's a full stack thing, so which focuses more on front end, back ends, and there's machine learning and all these big data stuffs, cloud DevOps. So this is a very big field, and this webinar aims to show you what are all those different possibilities, what are the different things you can learn, what are the different areas you can explore, what things can you connect with. And we also want to give you an insight what companies are looking for in the candidates so that they can hire you in certain roles, and what are the different roles available, what skill sets are being demanded more in the industry. So with this short intro about the event, I like to welcome Saugat once again. And lastly, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Those questions will be answered later in the Q&A session. After Saugat finishes his talk, we'll have a short Q&A session, and we'll be addressing all those all your queries at that time. And lastly, we don't expect any disturbance from the attendees, so please keep your mic muted for this event, and don't make any noise or don't talk about any irrelevant things in the chat. So that's that. And saying all this without any delay, I'd like to hand over this event to Saugat. So Saugat, warm welcome to you once again. And yes, you can carry on. The stage is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you for that introduction. I hope I'm audible, right, Mahesh?
Yes, Dai.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so glad to know that you are doing really good on the DevOps part as well. Thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, hi guys. I'm Saugat Gautam. Like Mahesh mentioned, I'm the principal engineering manager at Leapfrog. So yeah, I've been, it's almost 8 years actually that I've been in the industry. So before talking any further, let me actually be the host of this party. So am I the host of this, of the Zoom?
Yes, there you are.
Okay, cool. So let me quickly share my screen and let me start. All right. So, yep, let me talk a little bit more about myself. Like I said, I've been in the industry for 8 years now. I started my career as a PHP and C# developer in the web development front. And then I got an opportunity to join Leapfrog as a mobile developer, iOS developer specifically in 2015. After that, I started my journey towards full stack because I knew mobile is not the only thing, or mobile is not the whole software industry, right? So by 2018, I actually got a complete transition to full stack. And then immediately I thought maybe, I was more attuned to managing things. I was more attuned to working with people, helping them solve their problems, understand their career needs. And that's why I actually moved towards engineering management, right? And here I am in front of you as a principal engineering manager. So let's talk a little bit about what my job is, right? So Mahesh did mention something about helping on the career aspects, and yes, that is. So among other things, right? So my majority of the task is to talk to people like you who wants to know what's out there for them, who wants to know how to be great at what they do, right? And then I am the one actually who help them guide, who help them figure out what they are actually good at, who help them figure out what's actually needed from them in the near future as well as for now, and then create a roadmap for them which they can actually work on, right? So I've been doing this for actually more than 5 years, the counseling and the guiding part. So I believe I have some credibility on today's presentation as well, today's webinar as well. So yeah, I'm glad to see so many participants joining here. Warm welcome, and let's start by talking a little bit about what's out there in the software industry, So yeah, I think most of you already know some of these areas that I've shown in the picture now. Software industry, it's a vast industry. It has so many branches, so many interesting areas, so many new areas emerging, every year. And as you can see on the bottom half, there are web developments, desktop applications, gaming. And if you look at the top half, you have artificial intelligence, analytics, cloud, right? And from left to right, you have animations, networking, designing. So these are just a subset of what you have in the software industry out there, right? So let me talk about a little bit about the numbers in the current world. So about 23 million people in this world actually are developers, coders, right? That's a huge number. 18 millions are in tech supports, IT. 3 millions, if you look down, are working as QA. 2 million more are 2 million actually are working as managers or executive level. And so it's a huge number of people who are sorry, I was distracted by the chat. Yeah, so as I was saying, there's a huge number of people who are actually entering the industry, working as a skilled personnel or actually as a job creator. And it's a marvelous time that you are living in right now, right? So it's the right time you are actually right industry you are querying about, right? Here I'm just attempting to show you how Nepal actually, what's the distribution of skilled personnel in Nepal versus there out in the world. And if you look at the data closely, we actually align with whatever the vision, whatever the roadmap of software industry has in the whole world, right? So this actually shows that Nepal is definitely not behind, and Nepal is definitely aligned with the sentiment of the software industry, and we have good enough people, good enough chunk of people actually working on all these fronts, right? So I believe software industry is one of the few things that Nepal is really good at, right? And you can believe me when I tell you, we have definitely created a footprint in the Silicon Valley out in the world, and they know Nepali developers as people who put quality, in the front, who are actually capable of doing these things, right? I hope we all continue the same legacy moving further as well. So yeah, like I said, lots of new and exciting career opportunities, more and more people entering this industry. Some are job creators, some are skilled personnel. And another beautiful thing is people are starting to code very early, right? Imagine kids, 12 years old, 2 years old kids actually creating games in iOS, right? So this is the world where we live in right now. So competition is definitely going to get tougher in the near future. But yeah, you are in the right place at the right time. Right. So let's talk a little bit about what's there in Leapfrog, right? So what are some of the opportunities that you can find in Leapfrog itself? And that's also something that you'll find in other companies in Nepal and which should be relatable to you, right? So yep, here are some of the areas that, Leapfrog as a company needs people on, right? So these are some of the representative areas. There are other areas as well, but there are some of the representative areas that I would like to talk about a little bit in details. So development, data, DevOps, QA, design, IT, security, business analyst, digital marketing, sales, and engineering and project management, right? So let me talk about some of these areas in a little bit of in detail so that you can actually understand what these data are, what are some of the things that you will be expected to do in these areas, and also what are some of the mindsets that you probably need to have to create a good impact on these areas, right? So let me start with development. So I'm sure development, all of you know, development means you are a coder, right? Developers are those people who, when given with a design of things, when given with a problem to solve, they actually, convert an idea, convert a design into the digital world where other people can actually interact it through machines, right, so to speak. So they are the problem solvers, right? They are the people who have a knack of engaging themselves in puzzles, who are actually really good at solving puzzles, who actually wants to get deeper down into the mystery of things rather than just admiring things and moving away, right? So if you are someone who who actually love solving these puzzles, who actually don't give up if your code doesn't work once or twice, right? So maybe you have the right mindset to actually be a developer, right? So another we have is data. So data engineers or data in general are people who actually work, of course, closely with data. So they are the ones who think about how to collect huge amount of data in a proper way, how to manage them, how to churn them properly, filter them, right? And then eventually how to create a meaningful insights out of those huge amount of data. Imagine billions of records, and you want to know, for example, you want to know which type of dog eats a lot of foods as opposed to some other kind, right? So like it's a very fulfilling job as well. It's like solving it's like bringing together a lot of small pieces of puzzle, and then at the end of the puzzle, you'll have a picture, and it gives you a meaningful information, right? So if you have a good experience or good knowledge of SQL, you definitely are cut out to be a good data engineer, right? If you are good with numbers, if you are good with running through a lot of entries, and then finding out meaningful information from all those chaos, maybe you are cut out to be a good data engineer, right? So DevOps. So DevOps, I'll put DevOps and IT in the same bucket for now. So DevOps and ITs, they are the ones who actually create a system, or actually, let's say, they ensure that your application stays on 24 hours of the day, 365 days a year, right? Imagine Facebook, right? So how many people are using Facebook? Maybe billions of people using Facebook. So it's so hard to actually manage all those data traffic coming in, right? All those people using the app at the same time. So DevOps are the one who actually imagine a system, create a system which can be used by so many people, and it doesn't drop in performance, right? It feels like it's so responsive. The app is so responsive, and by the way, if something happens to the system and if it is down, DevOps are the frontliners who actually stay up all night to ensure that the system is live in the next hour or next couple of hours. A very fulfilling job, right? So if you are someone who maybe likes to install a lot of flavors of Linux in your application, you might be well cut out for DevOps as well, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? I will be doing a huge injustice if I just say that's what DevOps is. But for you, maybe that could be a good indication. But at the end of the day, if the output of developers is a web application, then output of DevOps or output of the code of the DevOps is a virtual machine, is actually a machine in the cloud, right? That's how you should take a look at it. So QA, it means quality assurance. This is this is another very important area. And we have a lot of QAs here, talented QAs there, without whom an application would not be as good, would not be immediately used by general people, right? So they are the ones who ensure that a system is of utmost quality. The system works in every environment, even if it's in low internet condition, right? Even if the system is used by kids or maybe adults, right? The system should behave predictably in the same manner, right? They ensure the quality of the system. They ensure that users actually reach where they want to reach by using the application, right? So I actually compare QA to art critics, right? So without whom we would not be able to appreciate the true meaning of arts, right? Do they necessarily need to create a masterpiece? Do they necessarily need to create a Mona Lisa? Maybe not, right? But they have enough knowledge to actually understand what a good art is versus what a bad art is, right? And what actually goes into making a good art. So I think QA do a wonderful job of ensuring those kind of things, right? So designers are creative people, right? So if you have a knack for creating something beautiful and something other people like, right, you are definitely cut out to be a designer. But that's not the only thing that designers do, right? They actually take help of technology, for example, HTML, CSS, and they create a usable thing. They actually convert their ideas, they convert their masterpiece into something usable by the program itself, right? And designers are actually the one who work closely with the client, who work closely with general people, understand what they need, and then convert that idea, that abstract thing into something beautiful, so that everybody can be aligned on, or actually say, this is exactly what I wanted to build, right? And designers also tend to have, deeper understanding of human psychology, color theories, how colors and human mind works, right? So, I mean, it's a huge area in itself, and it's a wonderful, fulfilling area. So if you are good at art, maybe, and if you are also good at maybe, if you are not shy, you do not shy away of writing codes, you might be allowed to be a good designer. Sorry, excuse me. So IT explained a bit. So it's at this level, you can compare them, you can put them in the same bucket. And security, for example, you are someone who constantly hacks your neighbor's password, right? Who constantly wants to guess other people's password, actually do some engineering. You might be a good security engineer, or you could be a good criminal as well. I don't know, man. But yes, security is the you people are the ones who actually, try to attack the vulnerabilities of a system, try to understand the weakness of a system, right? And actually pass that up so that no one else can actually exploit those vulnerabilities, right? So if you're someone who wants to use different kind of who wants to root your mobile, right? Who wants to install Kali Linux just for the sake of hacking other people's Wi-Fi password, maybe you are got out to be a security personnel. Right. These are some of the core technical areas that Leapfrog has, and you could be one of them, one of the many in these areas, right? So, talking about business analyst, so this is a relatively new role in the world as well. So I said relatively, and business analysts are someone who are closer to the clients, right? Who take requirements from the client. Clients are the people who actually have ideas, right? And business analysts convert those ideas into easily digestible tasks, right? And then create and then understand the feasibility of those tasks as well, and then present those tasks to the developer or to the designer, right? So that they can create a beautiful design out of those written requirements, right? And business analysts are also those who actually do a data-driven analysis of whether a feature should go to a program or not. For example, if Facebook decides, when Facebook decided to remove the dislike button, I'm sure there were business analysts involved who actually gave a data on why this did not work or why this should be taken out of the app altogether, right? So that's the role of one of the role of business analysts as well. So other areas are digital marketing. So digital marketing, basically, if you're a good storyteller, you might be well cut out for digital marketing, right? So there are someone who actually collect wonderful stories from the projects, from products, or from company itself, compile it, and then present out in the world. At the same time, actually, make the developers hero of the stories, right? And if you really actually create good stories, if you really want to write, if you have the knack of making something very good, right? Even if it's a very small thing, if you have the knack of creating something great out of that small fact, you might be well cut out being a digital marketing personnel. Sales is also an area sales is actually the bread and butter of our company, right? So sales team is someone who brings new projects to our company, right? They try to understand what a market needs, right? Or if they are a good salesman, they actually try to create a need for the market, right? They actually take a first-hand feedbacks from the customers, and then they drive the product, and then they actually bring in new projects to the company as well. So very very important role, without which none of the other areas would even exist in Leapfrog or in any other company, right? So the remaining two, engineering management and project management, they are the managerial roles. Engineering management actually deals with people, guiding them, helping them in their career path, in their technical career path, right? Project managers actually take care of the whole project. So whatever the areas that I mentioned earlier, project managers actually glue them together and then help them work together and produce a meaningful result, right? But these two are something you'll be able to do once you have enough understanding of the tech industry and you have some enough experience as well. All right, I think I lost Jennifer. Yep. So those are some of the areas and some of the mindsets that you might need for those areas. Now, let me talk a little bit about what we as a company expect from our leapfroggers, as well as someone who wants to be a leapfrogger in the near future, right? Yeah, here we go. So at the highest level, Leapfrog expects innovation, right? A smarter innovation. So we want Leapfroggers and the company and Leapfrog itself to innovate something new every time, right? And there are 4 key ingredients for smart innovations, and we want all of the Leapfroggers to actually internalize these ideas into their brain, right? So our design should be user-centric. Our endeavors should be very user-centric, because let's face it, we are not creating systems only for ourselves. We're actually creating systems so that other people can enjoy working, right? We want our engineers to have, a world-class way of doing code, right? We want them to have the mentality where only the best of the best patterns are acceptable. Only the best of the best, or only the most optimized code is actually acceptable, right? So we want our engineers to actually perfect their code so that it's reliable, it's maintainable, so those kind of things, right? And we want data-driven approach on anything, especially whenever we are trying to create a product, whenever we are trying to add new features to a product. We want those decisions to be made based on data from customer feedbacks, right? So in our level, it could also mean if you want to change something about the way your team works, about how you work, let data help you make those decisions for you, right? So these are some of the key ingredients that we expect people to adopt. So going a little bit deeper, so there are some of the qualities that we would expect from a leapfroggers, as well as anyone who wants to join us, right? So you need to have a penchant for writing high quality code, right? So coding does not just mean you write something to gain an output, right? Writing a good quality code involves writing easily readable codes, writing easily maintainable codes. Even if someone else has to start working in the code that you wrote, they should be able to do that with very minor hiccups, right? And also, even if you look at your code maybe after a week or 2 weeks or a year, you should be able to pick it up from where you dropped off, right? That should be the level of your code. And the code itself should have less bugs, right? You should always strive for excellence while writing quality codes, right? It should be great, right? Good enough is not going to cut it. So along with that, we need everyone that joins us to have a trustful communication. What that means is you need to speak up whenever you think something is not going right, right? You need to be vocal whenever there's a technical discussions. Now, being vocal does not only means cooking something up on your own. You need to be data driven whenever you are presenting your communication. You need to be research driven, right? Only opinion might not count, right? You need to back it up by research as well. That's one. So another part of communication is, let's say if you're stuck on something, let's say if you are actually, not able to solve a problem that you have, do not keep quiet, right? Talk to your peers, talk to your team lead, because they would want to know, right? So you are not working in a silo. And we are expected to work in a team where you actually pass as much information as possible so that the whole team can actually work together on creating something good, right? So we strongly believe that the effort of the whole team is always greater than the effort of one individual, right? So another expectation we have is for you to have a agile mindset. What that means is, I'm sure some of you have heard about Agile as well, but Agile, to sum it up, Agile means doing something iteratively in small chunks and then creating feedbacks receive feedbacks and make it better next time based on those feedbacks, right? You don't code your application for 1 month long and then wait for the feedback at the end of the month, only to know that that was not something the client wanted to build at all, right? You need to do a small chunk of works, a week worth of work or 2 weeks worth of work, and then you need to get feedbacks from your peers, from your team leads, and then improve upon those feedback on the next 2 weeks. So that's the mindset you need to have, not only on coding, but on everything, every other endeavors that you take, right? So another crucial expectation that we have is, you need to have a very full stack mindset. So in this world, it's not enough. It's not enough to just be good at front end part of things. Let's say back end part of things, right? Or maybe you just want to do HTML your whole life. That's not going to cut it. That's only going to take you up to some level. An individual, given enough time, is expected to complete the whole application, working on either the front end or the back end, the whole things, right? You need to be able to work on every part. So you need to be constantly evolving yourself, doing research so that you can be full stack in the near future, right? And this is the general expectation of not only Leapfrog, but any good companies out there in Nepal or in the world, right? And finally, you need to have that flexibility. So full stack and flexibility are sort of related things, but flexibility also means, let's say, you are creating a software, and then the solution to a particular problem is not through React or Python or any other programming language, but through creating a proper documentation. It should not be beneath you to create that documentation, create a good documentation that others could understand, right? So you need to be flexible. You need to be able to wear multiple hats, right? Because the end goal is to actually create a good product, right? So we are all striving to create a good product that you enjoy to work on and other enjoy to work with, other enjoy to use, right? So that should be the mentality that you have, right? So yeah, so let's talk about what you can actually do to prepare yourself better, because these are some of the things that are, these are some of the things that are mostly behavioral, and I believe you guys can easily, if you start today, you can easily adapt yourself and set yourself up for success in the software industry, right? If you start doing it from today. So before talking a little bit about what you can do, let me show you this chart. This is actually what we present to our associate software engineers in Leapfrog. And this is a roadmap, a learning path for the associate software engineers. Now, if you look at it, in the first month, the associate software engineers are expected to understand Git flow, Nginx. They're expected to understand object-oriented programming and the related principles, solid, dry, etc. Right? They're expected to understand design thinking, and then they are also expected to at least be good enough in one primary stack, which is React and JavaScript for now, right? And this is just expected out of them. They are expected to learn all these in just 1 month, right? And further down the road, you see them actually involved in micro front-end, microservices, all of those big words, right? So REST APIs have deeper understanding of containerization. If you look further down, you can see enterprise data management. So all of these for people who have just entered the industry and who haven't even worked for 1 year, right? We expect these kind of things out of them because they can, right? Because we expect people with certain quality. Every company does. And these people, we hire the Leapfroggers from internship, and they pass a lot of interviews, and we know that they can actually do this, but we definitely provide guidance to them. And with enough guidance, feedbacks, they are definitely able to follow all these daunting, topics that I just talked about, right? But maybe this could be a little bit challenging for you right at the moment. So here are some of the things that you could start doing right from today, right? You don't even have to actually go through all of these things right now. First is go back to basics, right? It's very, very crucial that you as an engineer, you as a developer, know your fundamentals, right? And by fundamentals, I mean, you need to get really good at object-oriented programming. You need to understand why object-oriented programming exists in the first place, right? Why you can't just write functions, and then create a code, right? And why design patterns exist. What are the user design patterns? What is abstract pattern, right? You need to understand those. At least you need to relate those to real world scenario. And then only maybe you'll have a better understanding of how to write a good code, high quality code, right? So other basic things that you should be able to do is, even beyond your software engineering courses, maybe some of you have studied digital logic, I believe, right? So it's so crucial to have a good understanding of that subject in particular, because that's the basic block of programming, right? So there are other subjects which might not be directly related to computer programming, but if you actually understand the underlying concepts of those subjects, those courses, it will definitely help you become a proper engineer in the future, right? Other basic things include looking into how compiler works, right? If you are really cut out to be a good engineer, you would probably be interested in writing machine level codes, writing code in assembly, right? Digging deep down into how compiler actually works, how just-in-time compiler works, right? Those kind of things. So you should be able to research those kind of things as well. So another is, you should definitely pick one language or stack of your choice, right? It could be Python, it could be JS, it could be anything, but stick to it, and don't be happy with creating a to-do list, right? Instead, actually, for example, if you are working with React, actually understand why so many functions exist in React out of the box, right? Why you don't have to write those functions, but what are those for, right? Or maybe even before that, you need to get very good at JavaScript, right? How JavaScript does things, what are the nuances of JavaScript, right? So it's very crucial to know the basics, because if you don't know this, you could probably create something, but after 2 years or 3 years, there will come a time where you are expected to create huge decisions. You're actually expected to choose between JavaScript and Python, right? And maybe someone wants to optimize their application a lot. You would not be able to do that probably if you don't have the deeper understanding of how things work behind the scene. So yep, always don't lose your basics. Be very good at OOPs, solid fundamentals, and pick one language, master it, right? Go into the details. So one funny thing is, actually, it really pays off as well, right? So you actually have been with me as well. When I started my career, like I said, I started as a C# PHP developer, and then there was an opening in Leapfrog for iOS development, right? I knew nothing about iOS. I knew nothing about Objective-C, which is the language that we use to code mobile application in. But what I actually was good at, if I should say, is the fundamentals, right? Is the OOP. I had very good understanding of data structures. I had very good understanding of all those design patterns, right? And then when interview time came, they asked me about Objective-C. I said I knew nothing, right? They asked me about mobile development. I knew nothing. Now they start me asking, what do you know? Just tell me what you know, right? And that was when I talked about OOP, how I talked about C, how I talked about data structures, why OOP is needed, and the conversation started going to that way. And then that was the basis of why I was hired in Leapfrog, not because I already knew mobile development, but I already knew Objective-C, which is the language that we used to code a mobile iOS app in, right? So it has helped me a lot, and I'm sure it will be same for you as well. If you choose to go to either to Leapfrog or any other company, the first thing that you should understand is the basic building blocks of computer. Now, so another thing that you should definitely do is challenge yourself, right? So you won't get better at coding, you won't get better at programming just by reading stuffs, right? And when I say challenge yourself, you should always be increasing the level of difficulty whenever you are doing something, right? Maybe you start with something very simple, like creating this Tower of Hanoi. Actually, just solving the Tower of Hanoi might be a challenge for you, right? Creating an algorithm for solving Tower of Hanoi. After that, you move on to creating a program that actually solves Tower of Hanoi, right? And maybe after that, you challenge yourself on creating some games. Flappy Bird, you might have known Flappy Bird, right? So it's an easy enough game if you actually, give maybe 4 weeks. You can definitely create Flappy Birds in 4 weeks, right? Try to create that game. And then if you are feeling a little bit more, if you want to do something, actually produce something that's actually used in the world, maybe you could create a dashboard like this, right? Where you have different charts, different data, and how data interacts with each other. So constantly evolve yourself, constantly challenge yourself. Like I said earlier, don't be happy with just by creating a to-do list app, right? But if you haven't even done that, you should definitely start doing that from today, right? Yeah. So another thing that you can do or you should do right away is treat your code or actually your whole work as an art, right? Some of you might have done coding in Java, some of you in Python, right? And maybe your work was only limited to academic stuff, or maybe somebody wanted to do something extra as well, right? Always make sure that whenever you write anything, it follows good naming conventions. It follows good structure, right? I'm sure you have studied a lot of about this in your academics as well. If not, there are enough articles out there, right? The bottom line is your code must be readable by someone, and your code also should be readable by you if you look at it a year down the road, right? So I have two examples here. So let me ask you people, like, among the left and the right part, which one do you think is a good piece of code? You can write that in the chart, the left or the right. Okay. All right. I think enough responses. Cool. So I see a lot of people says left part is the a good code. Why do you think left is a better code? Can anyone? I mean, just feel free to write that in the chat section. Why do you think left section of the code is beautiful? Yeah, someone can actually unmute yourself and talk as well. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So, yeah, seems like we are pretty divided, but unfortunately, guys, those whoever you said left part is the better code. It's not actually a better way of writing code, right? Let's see who was the one. Sushil Gewali actually mentioned right one is more readable, right? But then someone other also said left one is more readable. Now let me tell you why the left section of the code is actually not something that you should write. Let's take a look at the right section. You have a function do stuff, and the first condition is if something is writable to a folder. If something is not writable to a folder, you just return from the function, right? You just return false, nothing to look at. Right. So if you read this code, you will definitely understand what it means. Right. So if something is not writable, return. If something you cannot be open, just return from the function, because nothing else can be done by this function. Right. If something cannot be get, like if you can't get some stuff, just return. Only if all of these checks passes, then the heart of the program actually is written, right? So the core logic is separated from all of these checks. Whereas in the left section, everything are nested inside too many ifs. It's not easily readable. Human mind are actually wired to read something linearly, right? If there is a branch, if there are too many branches, we actually tend to lose the train of thoughts, and it's actually difficult to debug. Whenever there's a problem in the code, right? You don't know where to start with. You don't actually be able to read the program, right? Somebody said callback hills, but actually this kind of writing also has a name, right? So if you look at it from left to right, it looks like a pyramid. Does anyone know what this is called? What this type of writing is called? Okay, so it's called the pyramid of doom, right? No, it's not a left pyramid, it's a pyramid of doom. Thank you for that, Sudhir, by the way. And so it's a doom, definitely, because whenever you want to add a new condition to this code, a developer is going to have a very hard time, especially if the developer is someone who did not actually originally write this code. It's going to be very difficult for him or her, right? And debugging is also definitely different. So yeah, so why, I think I have given enough reason why this code is more maintainable. Now, somebody asked, did I mean beautiful or did I mean maintainable? I mean both, right? So when you're talking about code, when you compare code with art, a well-maintained or a code which is maintainable, a code which can be easily extended by others is actually a beautiful code, right? So that's the mentality. That should be the mentality. But indentation, definitely, they are very important, right? They are the visual aspects of the things. But readability is very crucial while writing code, right? So this is just one of the things that you can implement in your coding style, right? Both function does the same thing, but what you're doing is actually creating a couple of guards in front of doors, right? There are 3 layers of guards they have to pass through before actually opening the door. It's so as simple as that. Whereas you don't know what's happening on the left side, right? You're opening the door, and sometimes it gets closed because something is missing, right? So there are many different examples you can find, and it would be great if you actually start following those good coding conventions from today. And even if you are writing code just for academic purpose, even though if it's for a proposal or even if it's for your pet project, right? Make sure to actually implement this kind of patterns in your code as well, right? All right, so these were some of the technical stuffs that you could do. By the way, I also, I actually struggled a lot on writing like readable course. Let me just mention, because like someone said, I actually had a habit of, adding too many indentation, too many comments in a code itself, because I thought maybe writing too many comments could make it understandable for people, right? But then eventually, when I started researching more, when I started talking with other people more, when I actually showed my code to other people and asked them to read, I actually figured out well-readable course, writing meaningful names, writing code in a linear structure actually helps others to understand things, right? So show your code to someone else, and then maybe you'll actually be, get good insight on how to write code properly as well. All right. So moving on to what else can you do, right? So first thing is, you should always know what your strengths are and also what your weaknesses are, right? So I talk about a bit of mindsets on different areas, right? So for developer, you need to be a problem solver. For design, you need to be an artist, right? So I think this is the right time to ask yourself that questions: what do you excel at? Do you feel motivated, highly motivated on solving a code, or do you actually feel motivated creating something beautiful using that code? Maybe you hate the coding part, but you actually love the output, right? You love the design that you have put together, right? Or it could also be that you hate coding altogether. For example, you're constantly tend to give up after 2 or 3 attempts, right? You have hard time grasping some of the fundamental things. It is possible, right? Not everyone is cut out to be a developer. So this is the right time to identify where do you stand at, right? And then find your strengths, because like I mentioned earlier, there are many areas, many niches where you can, which you can choose and set up on the journey of, being a great personnel on that areas, right? Maybe you have good eyes for, quality, right? Maybe maybe you like to test your system more. Maybe you are just interested on hacking things away, right? Rather than writing codes. Understand those things, and then actually research more on what are the areas that are suitable to your strength. Don't ever, push yourselves on becoming something that you are not, right? That's going to hurt you in the long run. Another thing is, by the way, I wanted to add this as well. So I actually, started my, I actually did a bachelor's in electronics, right? So I was not a computer student. And after a couple of years, I actually knew that electronics is not for me, right? But still then I struggled, I pushed along. And then at the, by the end of 4th year, luckily, I was so clear that programming is what I want to do, that I stopped giving exams on NEAs or all those that NCLs and those kind of stuffs, and I actually invested my money, my savings on 2 months of 2 months of training on IT training in Nepal there, and that was the basis of how I actually started coding, right? Because I knew that electronics is not for me. So it's not too late for you to actually understand your strengths and weakness, and nobody is going to judge you, of course, right? So there are so many areas that you can be impactful on. Don't choose the wrong one. So another very important, equally important part is investing on your soft skills. So being good at what you do, it comprises of so many things, right? So only acquiring hard skills or technical skills is not enough, because you need to know how to explain those whatever you have done to some other people, right? Sometimes you need to be able to maybe motivate a team. You need to be probably able to explain your work to the client as well, right? So you need to have very good communication skills on that, right? So another soft skill, maybe you need to understand how to interact properly with your peers, how to interact properly with your team leads, right? Those kind of things. So maybe if you are an introvert, it's not bad to be an introvert, right? But still, you need to learn how to actually channel, be responsive enough when our time demands, right? You need to learn to be an active listener, maybe. Right? So those are all the soft skills that you need to have in this world, right? So maybe you are not good at English. It should be the first thing that you do starting today. You should practice your English. Why? Because it's a universal language, and all of the coding that you do is in English itself, right? So identify your shortcomings, improve upon your soft skills, right? And another bad habit that I think all of the Nepalis break is we tend to over-explain things. Maybe I also did a couple of over-explaining in this presentation. That's because of my bad habit from Nepali. त्यो विवेचनात्मक उत्तर लेख्ने हुन्छ नि, हैन? हाम्रो मार्क्स कसरी आउँथ्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ if you write 2 pages of things, त्यो जति धेरै लामो लेख्यो त्यति धेरै मार्क्स आउने भन्ने टेन्डेन्सी हुन्थ्यो, हैन? त्यो बेला चाहिँ के हुन्थ्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ the crux of the thing that you actually wanted to write, that would only be 2 to 3 lines. Okay? That would only be maybe 1 paragraph. You know? But we were rewarded with whenever we wrote, whenever we made things vague, right? That needs to stop. Like, you should actually understand that being succinct, being clear, being concise is actually very important, rather than writing those big messages, right? So, similarly, there are other soft skills as well that you could probably research on yourself and invest some time. So again, so relating other things, I actually was not that good at English. I'm not saying I'm good now as well, but I used to suck at English. So after SLC, what I did was I actually stayed in front of a mirror and I just practiced talking about anything, right? I just talked about cow, and I wrote and not say wrote. I actually started talking about cow. Imagine that I was writing an essay about cow, and then I just talk about cow, right? I talk about some other topic, just me and the mirror, and then that actually helped me be articulate about things. Actually helped me, put the words together, and I'm just really, proud of myself that I actually invested that much time during my SLC period to learn English more, right? Otherwise, I would not even have been able to, give this presentation. So other thing is, maybe you could start being active in the community. The Nepal development community is amazing, right? And then there are so many events happening. There are other things as well where you could involve yourself in, for example, open source community. Maybe you can contribute to some open sources as well, right? Maybe you can be a speaker, or at least be an active listener in those communities, be a participant, right? And finally, not definitely the least, you should have high level of ownership and integrity, right? It's true for not only for software industry, but for every aspects of your life. Being owning something means whenever you start writing a piece of code, you should not be happy until you're proud of what you have done, right? If you start thinking like, I just got the output, some of the shortcomings, but it's good enough for now, you are not owning that thing, right? The first step of ownership is you should actually be proud of what you did. That's the litmus test for ownership. And then, you should ensure that whatever you are doing is actually useful for some other people. Because let's face it, in this industry, we create things for others. And if it's not useful, if it's not usable by others, if others do not enjoy to use it, maybe you're doing something wrong. And you should invest your time on on improving upon the things that you do so that it's likable by everybody else, right? It's a tasking job. It takes a lot of effort, but you should do that. Right? It's a quality of being a good professional. And integrity, of course, you know what integrity means. That you should not lie, you should not cheat. At least not to yourself first, definitely, and not to others as well, right? If you are asked to write a good quality code, and you should definitely do that, right? And let's say you forgot to let's say you say something like, I don't this code takes 5 seconds of time. For example, your piece of code takes 5 seconds of time to execute. You know that this is wrong. Still then, if you put it to your production, or let's say still then you present it to your mentors that this code is working properly, you are not being you are not showing your integrity, right? You need to understand that whatever you do should be the best, should definitely be the best at that moment of time, right? For example, what I actually mean to say is, if you are doing something right now, whatever knowledge that you have gathered, right, it gives you a picture of actually what it should be on it. Okay, it might not be perfect, but you should absolutely try to do things, that you feel is absolutely right. तिम्रो अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङले जे भन्छ अहिलेको बेलामा, त्यो नै तिमीले चाहिँ गर्नै पर्छ क्या. That's the standard that you should put yourself to, right? Maybe next time you learn something else, something new, and you might need to incorporate that to your coding as well. But you need to have a high level of ownership and integrity. Okay? So yeah, finally, this is a mantra that everyone of us should adhere to. You might be talented, but it doesn't take you a long way if you don't work hard, right? So Tim Norke says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's so true, right? Do not be lazy. If you have a talent, do not let it go to waste. Practice, and practice. Do a lot of hard works, because this is up till 3 years, from now to 3 years, all you have to do is work very hard, learn everything that comes your way, and prepare yourself for the next big thing, right? So that's what your mentality should be. Yep. So key expectations, just to sum it up, you should create a solid foundation. Be good at OOP and solid patterns, right? Solid principles and other patterns as well. And I've also added Git here because I don't know how, I don't think it's taught in the academic as well, but Git is so much crucial in the industry that it's very important if you actually start learning about it from today onwards itself, right? What does Git pull means? What does Git push means? Why actually is Git useful? So it's better to have this knowledge even before you start joining an industry, right? Maybe you could also try integrating some third-party APIs that will actually widen your horizon, right? You will be actually working to integrate with someone else's code, and that will also make you understand why writing good code is so important, right? And finally, also stick with one language and master it. And by mastering it, I mean go to the details of things. So other behavioral things, like I mentioned, ownership and integrity, develop soft skills, and your mindset. Treat your code as work as art. Definitely work hard, right? Another is learn how to learn. So what this means is you might think that you have actually understand a lot of things, but do not limit yourself to that. Always seek for new perspective. Always seek for new perspective from your peers or your mentors, right? And always try to work on those things, because there are definitely people who know more than you, and it's beneficial to actually learn from them from early on rather than later down the road. And if you do not have some mentors available at hand, try to improve the way you research things as well, right? So researching a document, reading a documentation is itself a very important thing to do, and you should not be satisfied with just understanding the reading it surfacely. You should actually take a time to see what else is out there, what else can be researched into. There could be some other related topics that you could research at, right? Don't just look at a documentation that's useful for your immediate work and then leave it at that, right? Yep. So these are some of the key expectations that we have from you. And that sums it up. So, yep. Thank you everybody for listening to me, listening to my rant. I hope you got something useful out of this. Now, I think we are ready to take some questions from you.
Okay, so before jumping into the Q&A section, I have a few things to tell. So, for attending further events, you can join our Facebook group. So, Leapfrog Student Partners have a Facebook group, and the link is in the chat, so you can join the group. And the other thing is, thank you, Saugat Bhai, for all the insights about what the skills are required to work as a developer, the possibilities, roadmaps, the soft skill thing, and also that short code review of the audience in the pyramid of doom thing. Also, I have talking about my experience. So, in moving into the industry, the first two things that I missed while learning or while doing my self project, one was writing a conventional commit message. That was too hard for me, and Prasanta helped me on that. And another thing is my code were not testable, so they were not testable. There was no the thing about dependency inversion was not implemented in my code, and there was no dependency injection, so my code was not testable. So that's that. And before moving on to the Q&A, one last thing I'd like to address is we have a short feedback form prepared, so you can give us feedback about the events, how the event went, and all the stuffs. So the feedback form is also in the chat. Now we'll be picking up some questions which were asked throughout the event. So starting with the first question from Suraj Sharma. Can you please elaborate a little more about the development sector of software engineering? What path should one select in order to become a C++ developer? What is the scope of C++ developer?
Okay. So I'll definitely answer the questions directly, but I think you might have missed a point as well, because what we should strive to be is not a C++ developer. What we should strive to be is actually be a proper developer, right? By learning the basics. That's what I was trying to explain as well. Being a good developer actually means, like I said, going back to the basics, writing beautiful codes, and then mastering one topic, right? If you combine these things together, and if you choose C++ as your main go-to language, you'll definitely do great in C++, right? So same is true for a JavaScript developer as well. So don't limit yourself to a particular language, right? Now, you want to be a C++ developer, of course, start by learning the different nuances of C++, why some functions exist there, what are their purposes, right? Another is start creating something using the built-in constructs that C++ has, right? For example, you might have heard about templates, you might have heard about other generics, use those kind of things, right? Again, what I really want you to do, what was the name, Mahesh, actually?
Suraj Sharma.
Suraj, yeah, Suraj. So what I actually want you to think about is, don't limit yourself to one particular language. This is the time to actually explore the fundamentals, right? And then start hacking away, start doing coding, like I mentioned, solve Tower of Hanoi, so create Flappy Birds, maybe in C++ itself. That's the only way that you're going to embark into your C++ journey. So CP, does it mean, you mean C++? What CP means?
Competitive programming.
Sorry?
Competitive programming.
Yeah, it is actually. So it's important, definitely. Like it's important because it keeps you on your toes, right? You're constantly seeking solutions, right? You are solving so many tough challenges. It's definitely helpful because it massages your mind as well, right? So I think that's the most important aspects of competitive programming. By the way, at Leapfrog, we also, before someone enters the company itself, we present them with some of the coding challenges as well, right? And then it's better if people already have that knowledge, already have that way of solving those problems. It definitely helps, right?
Okay, so we have another question from Sandesh Adhikari. So I'm a BCA first sem student. I want to work in a great company like Leapfrog. How do I prepare myself?
By following all the things that I said in the slide itself. But yeah, I mean, work hard from right now. Improve your basics, improve your fundamentals. At Leapfrog, we don't actually care if you have done enough of C++ or enough of Python or enough of Django, those kind of things, right? Um, Even in our interviews, we generally talk about OOPs. If you have not done anything, right? We talk about computing fundamentals. We present you with a challenge, scoring challenge, right? And your mindset is what's important, right? Your potential is what's important. So yeah, definitely follow whatever I said right now, and then start working. Going back to your basics. That's the best thing that you could do right now.
Okay, thank you, Rai. And Onukul asked, what should I learn to get into internship in any company? I think this is related to a poor question, but if any more insights.
So I will not, say for all the other companies because different companies have different, need. But definitely for our company, be good at your basics, and then, we have examinations. Prepare well for the examinations. You'll definitely get selected, right?
Okay. So another question is, when do we know that it's time that I apply for job in companies like Leapfrog? What's the threshold to get in?
So all right. So okay, let me talk about Leapfrog itself, right? So there aren't so many thresholds, so many blockers. Like I mentioned, you need to pass an examination, right? And for that, you need to have a better understanding. But it's better if you actually, complete your bachelor's first, right? Because whenever you don't feel like compelled to join a company even before you complete your bachelor's, because it doesn't work well most of the time. You need to give examinations as well. You haven't learned, you will not be able to give enough time to the company itself, right? So yeah, so I will not say that that is a threshold, but that is just a suggestion. Try to pass your examinations in 4 years or 3 years, whatever, however long it takes, and then join Leapfrog, right?
Okay, thank you there. And also Kiran asked, what are some good books for developers in order to improve the skills?
I don't know, man, because I generally don't follow books. But there was one. I actually studied art of programming, right? But it could be a bit, advanced for you, especially because it does not actually deal about learning code, but then it deals about writing good codes. But there are so many documentation out there. YouTube, I believe someone mentioned about YouTube videos. Is it a good platform? Definitely. So you can follow any books that you choose, right? Any videos that you choose. Just make sure that you implement something that you learn. Every day, create something new, right? Create a pet app. Maybe you want to create a game and complete that game, through and through. And then maybe you want to add some new features. Maybe you're stuck. Go back to the YouTube. Go back to Stack Overflow, and then complete that game. That's the only way you're gonna learn.
Okay, so the third last question is, should we have to work on several projects and have good experience for internship, or should we just have basic knowledge from
So you have to
scratch?
work on several projects and have good experience for internship, or no? So definitely not. Um, so interns, we hire those people who are very good at their, basics, like I have mentioned now thousand for the thousandth time right now. You need not be an expert in Python. You need not have experience in projects, right? But if you come to us and say you have this and this experience in project, we'll definitely ask you about what you did in those projects. If you are able to answer properly, we're going to hire you, right? Because by answering properly, I actually mean if you actually demonstrate that you have understood that what you have done, you'll get hired, right? That's the basic criteria. You need to be able to explain whatever you have done properly.
Okay. So Prahlad asked, what are the places to learn hacking in Nepal and do practical? Does Leapfrog members work for cyber security as well?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question again, Mahesh?
He asked, what are the places to learn hacking in Nepal and do practical? And does Leapfrog members work for cyber security too?
Yeah, so I'm just going to answer the second part, right? So for hacking, I mean, there are lots of things that you can find online, right? So I don't think I will dwell much on it. But on security, yes, we are embarking our journey on the security. We are creating a security team as well. And if some people are highly interested in security and they have the potential, we would be happy to have you on board. But you have to understand one thing, right? So even though I mentioned there are so many areas in Leapfrog, it's generally better to have some experience in coding, actually understand what it goes into creating an application, right? Before actually choosing other areas, because it will give you a good perspective whenever you switch an area, right? For example, if you are working on security, if you don't know the nitty gritty of the code itself, or if you don't have enough experience, you're not going to make an application secure, right? So I think for you guys, it's definitely try to work as much as possible on creating a whole application first, and then maybe you can think about going to security. But definitely, if you have a potential, and we'll definitely interview you, you have a place for us.
Okay, so the last question now. So the last question is from Sushant Suvedi. So he says, I have a question regarding UI UX design. A lot of opportunities I see in UX design, moreover focus on UX research and UI design in general as generalist, but I'm moreover interested in UX research, UX designer. So I wanted to know the working culture regarding UI UX at Leapfrog. Can we solely work as UX researcher?
Definitely you can. So thank you for the question as well. So UI UX is a very strong aspect of Leapfrog, right? So we value the UI engineer, UI area very much, because without that, a project, we won't even be getting new projects, right? So we definitely do have a dedicated team at Leapfrog. We definitely do have people who make their career only by doing UI UX research, right? Who actually do not actually write any codes right now, but actually research on what people need, what customers need, how to document things properly, how to create a compelling prototypes, those kind of things, right? Having said that, you need to, like, this is the industry that we live in, you need to understand a little bit of HTML CSS as well, some of the React as well in different, because our UI UX team, they are actually capable of creating a website on their own, maybe not in React, but they actually, I'm sorry, maybe not in every languages, but definitely in React, or right, or in WordPress. So be prepared to be involved in some coding part as well if you want to be a part of research, but that's only because to give you some exposure to the coding as well as to help you empathize, right? But we definitely have a you know mm, need of UI UX researcher.
Okay, so that's all the questions. Sorry guys, we cannot take any more questions. So it's already a lot of questions. Also, if you have any more questions, you can just ask in the Facebook group, or you can share the projects you have done in the Facebook group. We as a Leapfrog team will also try to answer. Our student partners will also try to answer the questions. And the other thing is, huge shout out to the student partners team. Thank you for promoting the group. Thank you for promoting the event. So this webinar wouldn't have been successful with such a large participant without your help. So thank you, Saugat once again.